to people who don't understand or believe. I witnessed a big black cat in the early 2000s and as yet have never heard of a single sighting anywhere near as clear. My sighting was from a couple of yards away and lasted about 20 to 30 seconds. It was so clear that I couldn't have been mistaken, and people still are commenting that it's all fake. Please don't try to tell me anything different. Fact, when I witnessed it, at least one was wild in the UK. Thanks, and on with the video. So, it was a cold, crisp night back in the early 2000s. I wasn't on some exotic expedition in the Amazon or tracking wolves up in the frozen north. Nope. I was just driving down a quiet country lane in the heart of England. The moon was super bright, throwing long, dancing shadows across the road. My headlights sliced through the darkness, lighting up the hedgerows on either side. Then suddenly something moved. It wasn't a fox. It wasn't a badger. It wasn't a deer. This was different. It was big, powerful, and it was pure black. It flowed rather than ran right across the road a few meters ahead. I slammed on the brakes, my heart pounding. The creature paused for a split second, caught in the full glare of my headlamps. It was a cat, a very, very big cat. Its shoulders were all muscle, its body long and sleek, its tail thick and curved, almost brushing the tarmac. The fur looked like polished jet soaking up the light. It turned its head, eyes cold, eyes intelligent, eyes not like a house cat. Then, in one smooth motion, it leapt the opposite hedge and vanished into the field. Gone as quickly as it had appeared, but I know what I saw. A moment frozen in time, a 10-second encounter that changed how I see wild spaces. The idea of big cats prowling our green and pleasant land isn't just some old legend, it's happening right now. In recent years, 2021, 2022, 2023, 2024, 2025 police forces in the southwest of England have been totally flooded with reports. Devon-Cornwall sightings logged from one end of the counties to the other. And these aren't just vague emails, these are official police records, detailing encounters that have left witnesses totally shaken and honestly pretty bewildered. The sheer volume and consistency of these reports are getting harder and harder to ignore. They paint a picture of a landscape where something big and predatory is living just out of sight. The Camel Trail, which is a super popular walking and cycling path in Cornwall, has had multiple reports. Folks out for a quiet stroll have said they saw a large black creature moving silently through the undergrowth along the trail. Further south, near Penzance and Helston, drivers have made emergency calls after some cat-like animal darted across the road in front of them. Bodmin Moor, with its long history of the beast of Bodmin, is still cranking out sightings of a creature described as a large, panther-like animal. This pattern just keeps repeating across the region, from the rolling hills around South Molton in Devon to the edges of Plymouth. The dates of these sightings are all over the place, suggesting this isn't just a one-off like a single animal that escaped. Reports came in all through 2021, kept coming in 2022 and 2023, and have actually picked up pace through 2024 and into 2025. They come from all sorts of people, in all sorts of places, at all sorts of times, but they're often describing the exact same thing: a large, dark-furred feline, a long, thick tail, and a silent, predatory walk. That consistency is what makes these accounts so compelling. When you really dig into the details of these eyewitness accounts, what's super interesting is just how many different animals are being described. This isn't just one type of beast people are seeing. The descriptions point to several different species of big cats, which suggests more than one type could be living wild in Britain. The most common sighting is of a large black cat. People call it a panther. Witnesses say it's the size of a big dog. German Shepherd, Labrador, but moves like a feline, smooth, muscular, almost always jet black with a long curving tail. Panthers aren't the only animals reported. Many reports from Devon and Cornwall describe a puma, mountain lion, cougar. Colours reported: sandy, tan, greyish-brown. Witnesses note powerful back legs and incredible leaping ability. Police near Plymouth in 2023 reported a tawny animal clearing a 5-foot stone wall, then vanishing into the woods. The descriptions fit a North American puma perfectly. There are also reports of lynx, less common but compelling. Stockier, medium-sized cats with tufted ears, a short bobbed tail, sometimes mottled or spotted coats. Sightings around South Molton, Exminster match Eurasian lynx features. Lynx were once native to Britain. Some suggest survivors or escapees returned. Rarely people claim to have seen lions. In 2022, A lorry driver in Cornwall reported a lioness near a clay pit. He described a big, tawny, powerfully built cat with no mane. He was sure it was a lioness. That sounds far-fetched, almost certainly a mistaken identity, but it shows the sheer range of creatures people think they're seeing. From panthers and pumas to lynx and lions, these reports across Britain suggest a complicated puzzle with more than one missing piece. So when someone calls 999 to report a lioness on the loose, panther crossing a busy A road, how do the police actually handle it? You might think the call gets laughed off, but records show authorities often take it very seriously, especially if public safety could be at risk. In many documented cases in Devon, Cornwall, officers were sent to investigate. Their job? Check the report, rule out escapes from zoos or private collections. At the scene, they do a systematic sweep, interview the witness, get a detailed statement, where it happened, what the animal was doing, search the area for physical evidence, look for tracks, spoor, check for big paw prints in soft ground, mud, sand, inspect for disturbed signs, broken fences, smashed up vegetation. Often searches come up empty. By arrival, the animal has vanished. Ground too hard for tracks, or it's stuck to grassy cover, leaving no marks. Log's End. Area search conducted with no trace, no corroborating evidence found. Officers check local zoos, wildlife parks, registered dangerous animal keepers, always no escapes, all accounted for. Lack of solid evidence keeps skepticism alive. Without a body, a clear photo, undeniable tracks. Police can't confirm. File closed, report unconfirmed, but reports keep coming. Police can't ignore them. They stay open-minded. Sending officers shows they see a small chance of real threat. Officially, careful procedure. Unofficially, the mystery deepens with every empty search. For decades, the hunt for a British big cat has been based on fleeting glimpses, those blurry photos. The one thing missing was DNA. That all changed. Bombshell. The story unfolded on a farm in Gloucestershire where a farmer had been experiencing unexplained sheep kills. Following one such attack, carcass at the fence. A tuft of black hair was discovered, snagged on a barbed wire fence, right next to the carcass. It clearly didn't belong to the sheep, it didn't belong to a fox, it didn't belong to a dog. It was something different. This single piece of hair became the subject of intense scientific scrutiny. It was sent to a specialist laboratory for forensic analysis. The results, when they came back, were, well, pretty stunning. The lab confirmed the mitochondrial DNA was a 99% match for a black leopard, Panthera pardus. This wasn't a domestic cat, it wasn't a dog, it was unequivocally a big cat. This piece of evidence was a game changer, the first ever DNA proof supporting the idea that large felines roam Britain. It was the smoking gun believers had been searching for over 40 years. The discovery was revealed in the documentary Panthera Britannia Declassified, which sent shockwaves through researchers and skeptics alike. For so long, the argument against big cats rested on the absence of hard proof. But DNA is definitive. It provided scientific validation for what thousands of eyewitnesses have been claiming for years. Of course, a single hair sample doesn't prove a whole population. However, its significance cannot be overstated. It shifts the burden of proof. So if there are big cats out there, where did they come from? I mean, it seems impossible that leopards could just appear out of nowhere, right? That pumas could just appear out of nowhere, right? The most plausible explanation actually lies in our own recent history. A piece of legislation passed in the 1970s. Before 1976, laws around keeping exotic pets were surprisingly lax. Back in the 1960s and early 70s, it was fashionable and legal for wealthy people to own exotic animals, pumas, leopards, lions. Harrods even sold exotic pets in London, including a lion cub named Christian, bought by two friends. But all of this changed with the introduction of the Dangerous Wild Animals Act 1976. The new law brought in strict licensing requirements. Owners now had to prove they could provide secure, appropriate enclosures and pay for an expensive license. Many who'd bought a cute puma cub a few years earlier suddenly faced owning a large, powerful, very expensive adult predator. They were faced with a tough choice. Pay up for the new license, have their beloved pet put down, find it a new home in a zoo. It's widely believed some chose a fourth illegal option. They drove their animals out into the countryside and set them free. Maybe they thought they were giving their pets a chance at freedom, releasing them into a landscape with plenty of deer, rabbits, other prey. The wave of big cat sightings across the UK began to take off in the late 1970s and early 1980s, right after the act came into force. It's a direct correlation too strong to be just a coincidence. These released animals would have been adaptable and resourceful. Pumas, leopards, the rolling hills, dense woodlands, and plentiful prey of the British countryside would have been ideal for them. It's possible these animals survived, found each other, and began to breed. This could explain how a small number of released pets led to a sustainable hidden population that's still being sighted today, generations later. Despite the compelling eyewitness accounts and the new DNA evidence, there's still a huge amount of skepticism, especially from the mainstream scientific community. Many experts argue that for a viable breeding population of big cats to exist, we'd see way more undeniable evidence than we currently do. A breeding population, even a small one, would leave a significant footprint on the environment. There'd be more kills, more tracks, and crucially, there would be roadkill. The complete absence of a big cat body ever being found on a British road is honestly one of the strongest arguments against their existence. Skeptics also point to the fallibility of human perception. It's incredibly difficult to accurately judge the size and scale of an animal, especially during a fleeting, unexpected encounter at dusk or from a moving car. A large domestic cat, particularly a big, well-fed tomcat, can look surprisingly large in the right conditions. The Maine Coon, for example, is a domestic breed that can grow to over a meter long. From a distance, could such an animal be mistaken for something more exotic? Psychologists also talk about the power of suggestion. If you've heard stories about the beast of Bodmin, you might be more inclined to interpret a shadow as a panther. Another key argument from the doubters is the lack of impact on livestock and deer populations. While there are sporadic reports of unusual sheep kills, there just isn't the widespread, consistent pattern of predation you'd expect from a population of large carnivores. Farmers aren't reporting losses on a scale that would indicate leopards or pumas are hunting in their fields every night. Ecologists who study deer populations have also not found evidence of predation by a large feline. The ecosystem, they argue, simply doesn't show the signs of a new apex predator being present. Finally, skeptics argue that the physical evidence that is found is often weak or misinterpreted. Plaster casts of footprints have, on closer inspection, often turned out to be from large dogs. Scat, or droppings that were claimed to be from a big cat, have been tested and found to be from foxes. While the recent DNA hair sample is a powerful piece of evidence, they argue that one sample is just not enough. The scientific world will probably remain unconvinced. The mystery is compelling, but the proof, they say, just isn't there yet. The debate over Britain's big cats is a captivating modern mystery. It pits sober scientific skepticism against the raw, personal testimony of thousands of eyewitnesses. For years, the story has been one of folklore, fleeting shadows, a rural legend whispered in country pubs. But the ground is shifting. The sheer volume of official police reports, Devon, Cornwall, combined with the groundbreaking DNA proof, Black Leopard, Gloucestershire, has really elevated the conversation. We've moved beyond asking if there is any evidence and started asking what this evidence means. We're left with a tantalizing puzzle. On one hand, the lack of a body or clear, undeniable footage remains a huge stumbling block for formal recognition. Mainstream science, understandably, demands a high standard of proof before it rewrites the book on British fauna. On the other hand, it feels increasingly implausible to dismiss the mountain of consistent sightings, the intriguing physical traces, and now the forensic data. The theory that the Dangerous Wild Animals Act of 1976 led to a mass release of exotic pets provides a logical and compelling origin story for how this all could have started. What we have is a classic clash between the known and the unknown. We know our countryside is home to foxes, badgers, deer. But could it also be home to something more? Something bigger, faster, and far more elusive? The possibility is honestly thrilling. It suggests that even in our crowded, mapped and managed island, there are still pockets of true wilderness, corners of the landscape that hold deep secrets.